Hello everyone and welcome to the Loudcast. This is our third installment of our lockdown / NaPoWriMo specials. I am your host, Kevin. I've just put this shirt on for this McLean. I will be joined, as always, in my flat by Perry, don't mention the haircut, Johnson. And of course, sitting next to him, joining us on our couch, our wonderful flatmate, Katie. She's actually dealing with this quite well, Ailes. It's pretty infuriating. And joining us from a remote location, somewhere in Leith, is Bex. I've just killed my flatmate and replaced him with a bear, Sherwood.
He's my new husband.
So, yeah, you might have noticed Mark is not with us this week. He's got some other stuff going on.
The bear isn't Mark?
The bear is not Mark. No, he sadly could not make the recording of the podcast this week. But we're sending him our love. And he's been keeping up with NaPoWriMo, so he's very much here in spirit. Good job this week, Gally. Yeah, it's been an interesting week. How's everyone doing? Bex, how is our remote location in Leith?
It's okay, yeah. I mean, there's so much going on for everyone, and every day is so hectic. That it's actually kind of been nice to have to write a poem every day because it's been the only thing that's been consistent. So, you know what? That's another way to look at it.
That's a great way to look at it. Begs a positive attitude. That's what we appreciate. Kate, how have you been getting on this week?
Kind of the same as Bex. Like, writing is a bit of an anchor right now, which I did not expect at all going into this. I was like, oh, this is going to be really stressful. And it is, you know, especially when I get to 9 p.m. and I haven't written anything and I've been working all day and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. But I think it's been really helpful for me to give myself permission to be creative every day. Other than that, I'm going slightly mad. I'm glad that it appears that I'm sane, but...
You know, anyone that would say permission to be creative every day has the soul of a poet. So you're clearly embracing that creativity. I like it.
Yep.
Perry, I mean, let's address it. Are you okay? I mean, I ask one because of the aesthetic changes. You're obviously, you know, transforming into something akin to Ming the Merciless. That's cool. But also, if you've been following our NaPoWriMo on Instagram, you okay, boo? You all right?
Well, actually, this week was a lot rougher than last week. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Haircut not included. I'm actually very happy with this.
We love Perry's new hair.
Oh my god, I hadn't touched it before.
Bex, I don't know if you know this, Perry shaved his head.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, I think he's a bit behind the times. I have also shaved my head in the past, so, catch up, Perry. But
see what
it's good. I like it. I think it looks great. You look so handsome.
He took the proper razor to it today, Bex.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
geez.
because I've got very dark hair, and this is not a podcast about haircuts. Let's move on, shall we?
The point is that Perry, along with Jack Hanks, have both embraced the Kevin McLean bald head, beard hairstyle.
Although
Yeah,
yours
I'm
is
really
going
looking
back
forward
now.
to joining.
Yeah,
Can't wait till my beard comes in.
I'm not cutting mine again until this is all done. So
Right, settle down. This is about poetry.
yeah,
Come on now.
So
How have I
week?
been doing?
Yeah.
It's been, not gonna lie, it's been a lot more difficult. First week, I was so gung-ho, and inspiration just kind of came at me from left, right, center, up, down, you know, the ethereal. It was all there. This week has been, I've been struggling to think of stuff to write, and I've been not enjoying it, to be perfectly honest. I much preferred the first week, where I just could sit down and stuff flowed through my fingers. And this week, it's been a chore.
It's funny, I know we had a conversation day 1 or day 2 where I was saying how impressed I was with the stuff you were putting out there, and I kind of was like, but you know, when my first 6 months in the poetry scene and of writing poetry, I poured out, I had all this great stuff, and then I hit, 8 months in, a year into writing, and suddenly you don't have that fuel that you've been sitting churning over and building up for all that time before you started writing. It's the difficult second album, isn't it?
Yeah.
Week 2 of NaPoWriMo. But yeah, so week 2 was E through K.
How did you do, dear?
Oh yeah, Kev. How did you do, Kev?
Honestly, no, yeah, because I will address it. I will address it because some people are following on Instagram.
It wasn't meant to
They
be
know I've gone
combative.
quiet. No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm doing okay today, and I don't know, when the camera's on, I suddenly feel fine. But this week I had a horrific dental thing, so my whole face swelled up, and I had like a huge amount of pain. I couldn't think, I couldn't do anything. And fun little bit of information for you all. Dentists apparently closed. They are not like necessary work, I guess. Who knew? So I couldn't see a dentist, and so I've just kind of been suffering. So I've missed sort of the last few days, which I'm really annoyed about, but I couldn't think, and my brain just wouldn't work. But the big thing I said when I started NaPoWriMo this year, I was like, in previous years, I have fallen off the wagon and gone, well, that's it. I'm not going to be able to do it. And that is not going to be the case this month. I'm going to jump back on board. Not only am I going to keep going and do every day, I am going to catch myself up. I'm going to do the days I missed. And I'm going to do that while suffering the forfeit, of course, because I know they're all sitting looking sympathetic while I talk about my horrific tooth pain, and none of them have brought it up to me, but I know they all deep down are pretty pleased that I am the first one to suffer the forfeit.
I'm very sympathetic.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah, screw you both. Bex, I can't see your smug face, so I'm going to pretend that you have real
I'm
concern
really
for me.
sad, Kev. Absolutely devastated.
Thanks. I'm going to ignore all that tone. But I did check because I knew I'd messed up. I knew we were going to have to go through the forfeit thing. I checked the poll just before we started, and it looks like there is a...
Like, drum roll, please.
Should we drum roll? We have a tie! We have a tie. It is a tie between univocalism, which was my pick, which I'm now regretting, and cow poem.
Yes.
Oh.
Can we combine them?
That would be what, a univocal cow poem. Well, I wonder what vowel it would be.
I know, right? That wouldn't be my suggestion for how we resolve this. I was going to say, how do we figure out which one I do?
Do we take to Instagram?
A secondary... Maybe instead of voting on the forfeit, what we'll do this time is vote on which one you want me to do, and I will keep an eye on it, and the one that doesn't win will become the new forfeit for whoever messes up next.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay,
So-
that sounds like the fairest way to do it.
So yeah, there will be a little eye just up in the corner here. You click on that, you'll find the poll, and you can vote either univocalism or cow poem, and I will try and keep an eye on it and get a feel for which one I'm going to go for. So I will take my forfeit on the chin. But everyone else nailed it, so well done. Little golf clap for you all. Even Gally, he completed all his. Some of them were pretty late in the evening, but we got there in the end. How did everyone feel? You were already saying, Perry, that it kind of stepped up. Week 2 was a lot harder. Kate, how did you feel week 2?
It was definitely harder. I relied a lot more on forms and specific prompts because in the first week, I think all of my poems I just wrote and then used my normal writing process because I had enough inspiration. I had enough ideas that were sort of ready, set. But this week it was like, gonna do a spine poem. I did a haiku today. I very much, we've reached the haiku, the noble, beautiful form of the haiku that I am using as a cheat.
My last day before crippling tooth pain, when it was just kicking in, I did haiku because I had nothing else in me.
I also have done a haiku already as well, so
Nice.
Yep. But yeah, it's definitely getting harder for me. As well, at this point, it's kind of funny. I'll come up with an idea earlier in the day and I'll write through it and I'll have a bunch of stuff, but then it'll get to like 11 in the evening and I don't have the time or energy to edit it into something I know I'll be happy with. So I'll leave it. So at this point, I have like 3 or 4 drafts of longer pieces that I want to do justice to. But I just haven't.
I think that's
finished
a huge thing, though, and even in this time where we're people are at their home and maybe don't have work. I know a lot of people still do. We're still working, but it's easy when you start something to have a lot of energy for it and a lot of gusto for getting stuck in. But it is hard to maintain anything, even if it is something as simple as writing a poem a day. So it's about giving yourself permission to go, like the day I edit this podcast, when I was doing it for last week's podcast, I also had to edit a few other poems for the BBC thing that we did and all that. And, you know, suddenly your days disappeared. I know Bex is still on office hours and things like that, so is Per. And so you know, you suddenly hit this point at night when maybe you want to whack on Animal Crossing, or you want to like chill out and have a glass of wine or something and watch a movie, but instead you have to suddenly find inspiration. And especially when, you know, you're people who either are poets or someone who's still, you know, their reputation is based on their creative output. You know, you want to put out stuff that's good, and so there's a lot of pressure on it. So if you have also messed up like I have and missed a day or two here or there, or you don't feel you've maybe done your best work and you've resorted to the haiku like Kate, like, don't beat yourself up. It's you got to remember it's still supposed to be a thing about pushing your creativity. And if you've written 3 poems this month and that's 3 more than you did last month, then NaPoWriMo's been a positive thing, right? So yeah. Bex, how was your week 2 been?
Yeah, I think I agree with everyone else. The first week, I think we were all really excited to be doing it and very nervous, and all of us were just like, we will not be the first to fail. And that kind of adrenaline took us through the first week. And the second week, with like, you know, this kind of becoming the new normal and being inside all the time, I was finding it really difficult to draw any inspiration. So then, like, Katie introducing me to different forms of like the Golden Shovel. I gave an erasure poem a go because of Katie and Mark's erasure poem that you can see on the Patreon and on our YouTube channel. Plug. So like things
Nice
like that I hadn't tried before. I really love the erasure poem. Oh my gosh, I'm very excited. I've already done 2. So I think that's a new favorite. So that's the positive, but it's been tough. Yeah, it's been difficult.
I was going to ask you about that actually, because obviously you're more like me, Bex, where you've come to more from a performance background, right? Like, it's fair to say for you.
Yeah.
So, you know, someone like Katie, who, as you know, studied English at a university level, a PhD level, you know, she has a kind of, she's used to these kind of forms and prompts and little exercises to get her creative juices flowing. But obviously these are all sort of new for us. So you're saying you like the erasure ones. Are there any other ones that stood out for you as like, man, even if I don't want to write that type of poem, you know, it's a good way to get started and get ideas rolling?
The most challenging one I think I did this week was the Golden Shovel, which Katie did like a really great explanation on her day on the Instagram, and it kind of just gave me, like, it's been really nice. I think Mark did some guidance. I've done some like little guidance-y stuff on Saturday, so to try and like inspire other people to do something a bit different. The Golden Shovel was really difficult to do. I think I also chose something that just had a lot of like I, in, of, and those words which are difficult to end lines on, really.
It was that got me with the Golden Shovel. Is it seems like such a simple, for those that maybe if you're watching this and you don't know, Golden Shovel is where you take sort of a line or a section of an existing poem or piece of text or whatever you want, and you take each word in that line becomes the last word of a separate line in a new poem you construct. And so it sounds a bit complicated when I describe it, but like the premise itself sounds quite simple. But then you sit down and you pick your thing, and then it's that Bex. You run into in and the and go, how do you know, these things that your brain is going, you can't end a sentence on, you know, a preposition or whatever it is. So you that's when you really need to lean into the poetry of it and give yourself a bit of leeway, which I found with the erasure poem as well, was kind of, I do a lot of narrative stuff, a lot of almost storytelling poems, and while I use imagery and things like that, I still keep it very structured. So to do an erasure poem where, you know, even if you're desperate to try and join it up as much as possible, you have to accept that there are going to be words missing and that you have to hint and sort of nod your head at what you're trying to go for rather than explicitly laying it out, which I think is good for poetic practice to push that kind of those bits you don't have as much experience in.
It's the same because I did a spine poem a couple of days ago, which is where you just take books or CDs or DVDs or games or anything that you have with writing on the spine, titles of the spine, and you arrange them to make a poem. And I was so annoyed because I was like, this could be a great poem, but I don't have any joining words or punctuation or anything like that. So still finding the creativity within a form like that while giving yourself leeway and saying this is a poem and you're using found text or whatever was really interesting. And I think as well, you know, you can look at that spine poem and go, okay, this is my spine poem. I'm annoyed because I want to add these different words and make it a full poem. Okay, go do that, you know, and you can still use it and you can still make another poem out of it. So there's so many ways into writing. It's just finding them and recognizing them.
Before we jump into our poems, I did want to ask as well, because I've been super pleased this week. I've not been able to engage a lot myself because, like I was saying, I wasn't in a great way, but I did see like notifications coming in, even if I couldn't look at them all, of like people getting back to us and sharing their poems. We were getting a lot of tags and stuff. So like, thank you guys so very much.
Thanks.
If you hit us up with a poem or you linked to us or you threw up the hashtag or whatever, like, much appreciated. I'm glad that we're able to kind of spur some people along. I saw Stuart Kenny put up a thing just saying like, he wouldn't, you know, kind of be this into NaPoWriMo if it wasn't for us, you know, putting the stuff out. So I'm glad if we've managed to have any sort of impact for you guys. Has anyone had a sort of standout? I only say because Fiona Liddell. I never. For those that don't know us,
She's been the dark horse of the entire month.
Fiona, I've known a long time, and she goes way back to like the first Fringe run of Loud Poets in 2014. She's worked with us a very long time and always hated poetry and vehemently took the position that she was never to write a poem and never would. And she is by far my favourite person this month. Like, did anyone see? We have a thing where Fiona once started chanting her own name at a party. Fiona.
That was the first time I met Fiona.
Oh, was it then?
The first night I ever met this woman, my two reactions were, oh my God, she's gorgeous. And the second one was, why does every single time she walks into a room, she starts yelling her own name and everyone joins it? I just moved to Scotland 4 months earlier. I didn't really know anyone and I was like, Jesus, who is this?
But did you see her poem that was just her,
Yes.
like her name dropping down? Oh my God, yeah, Fee's smashing it. Anyone else? Anyone got any standouts? Because Fee is my new poet laureate. Fiona for laureate.
I know Mary McCall posted a piece. She took my prompt to write about joy and did...
Very admiring.
Well, but she did something totally different with it. She talked about Marie Kondoing the concept of joy. It was really interesting and funny and yeah, good.
Nice. Per, you got any shout outs? Anything you saw?
Yeah, Rob McLeod did a lovely erasure poem from, I don't remember exactly what document it was, by something to do with COVID.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was so
Oh,
nice.
right, wow.
Yeah.
Did he? Because I know he's been doing stuff in Gaelic as well, isn't he? For NaPoWriMo?
He did a Gaelic golden shovel.
Gaelic, sorry, I always screw that up. That's ace. But yeah, I think he was saying it might be the first ever Gaelic golden shovel, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty
That
sweet.
would be really cool.
Good job, Robbie. Bex, have you got any shout outs? Anyone you want to?
Obviously, the lovely Mr. Jack Hinks, our regular guitarist, has been doing really well, smashing
Jack
it with
is smashing
NaPoWriMo.
it. Really good stuff from Jack.
And also the lovely Georgia, who has finally got her t-shirt. I'm so sorry it was delayed. So that has arrived. She is now officially clad up like my lovely bear husband. And she's been doing poems every day. Yeah, so shout out to George Bartlett Neal and Jack Hinks. And yeah, there's loads of people. It's hard. I feel bad for everyone I haven't said. But that would take too long.
Keep sending them in. Like we really do appreciate reading them. I know George is someone that's really good at playing with different forms and stuff as well. So like it's really nice seeing her stuff come in. But like yeah, I know a bunch of people are taking part, so do go and check them out. I know guys like Harry Baker and Dan Simpson are taking part. I know Holly McNish has been doing a lot of stuff, and
Dean Atta's
been going for it. Yeah. So like, please do continue to check everyone out. But now it's time for our poems, and since I had a bunch of days off later in the week, I think I should probably start to kick us off. So I'm gonna go for an E poem. Sorry, I just need to bring it up.
Should I sing some hold music?
No, please don't.
The hills are alive.
Wow. So this is a poem I did, and I took Erasure for the E poem. So again, like Bex, when we were doing Return to Form, I did the ekphrastic one with Bex, and so seeing Mark and Kate do Erasure kind of made me go, I'll give that a blast. You can check out both of those videos on the YouTube and on the Patreon, just like Bex Sherwood said. So yeah. This is an erasure poem and it is the sort of first 3 paragraphs of Peter Pan. Yeah. So, grow up. They will grow up. One day. 2 years playing in a garden, plucked another flower. Oh, why can't you remain like this forever? Must grow up. The beginning of the end. They lived until. Such mocking. Tiny boxes. Puzzling. Never loved. Darling, first kiss, never knew time. Thought. I picture trying the door. Yeah. Yes, that's
Real nice.
It's amazing because I read that, right when you wrote it. It is so different hearing erasure poems because obviously there's no punctuation.
Yeah.
And so I did not get the full sense of that. And when you said tiny boxes,
Yeah.
Oh.
And like I think it is one of those things that it is so odd that erasure poem is so intrinsically linked to being a poetic device for page poetry.
Yeah.
But I think there is a real lack there because it was one of my problems with it. I looked at it and was just like, the thing I want to say out of this isn't possible. And I'm like, do you leave in the commas? Do I steal a comma from further down? And yeah, so maybe that's a bit of my practice still and needing to find a way to try and say those things clearer. But I agree with you that it's hard to read that and hear what I was going for. But I think especially that is not a poem I would ever write without that prompt. It's not something I had in my head to ever kind of talk about, but like I could probably write something quite worthwhile out of the basis, like use my own poem as a prompt now, so that it doesn't matter how it's written there or what people manage to glean out of it. You could take that and edit it into something more worthwhile for spoken word. But yeah, that was my erasure
I
poem.
think that's brilliant. And I love as well, because the character is Mr. Darling, right? It's a character name, isn't it?
No, so I
Mr.
had,
and Mrs. Darling or whatever.
yeah, but I hadn't taken it as that. So it was.
But that's the great thing.
In Peter Pan, yeah.
In
it's a
Peter Pan,
character,
because
yeah.
you don't have to use the full Mr. Darling. You can just turn that into Darling, which is great. And I love...
I've really stripped a lot of the text out as well.
Yeah,
like more
yeah.
significantly than I think either you or Gally did in your erasures. Like I really, there's very few words out of the first 3 paragraphs. It is a pretty huge transformation to what the original text is. So I quite enjoy it. I've often said that poetry for me is about saying a very complicated thing in its simplest and most beautiful way. And I think there is something to erasure poem that really leans into that for me, where it is you strip everything out to this one core idea or message and you say it in a very simple, beautiful way. So yeah, I think I'm definitely going to do more erasure. But yeah, who wants to take F?
trying to remember. I've been so bad at actually doing them on the days that we're meant to do them, so I don't know what day F was.
Oh, F was day 5. What do you mean you're bad at doing them on the day you're supposed to do them?
Oh no, I haven't used the alphabet for most of my prompts.
Oh, that's fine. You don't have to.
Yeah, that's
Just whatever
fine,
you did for day 6.
Oh no, okay, yeah, day 6 is the one that I wanted to share anyway.
Nice.
So
Sorry.
that-
It's my bad. I've replaced the calendar and time with podcast record day. F day. It's now how I operate. I did not notice the clocks had changed.
No, you were a nightmare.
Didn't know. Didn't affect me. I've given up on time.
Yeah. It's good. Social
It's a good
construct.
poem.
So, there you go. That's tomorrow's poem.
Thanks.
So yeah, day 6 F bleh. Taking my own voice out of my ear. So I did a golden shovel, and this was the first I'd ever done a golden shovel. It was the first.
I'm sorry, I did not. I thought that was something you'd done a bunch of.
I had never done a golden shovel before, and it's really interesting. If you were following the Instagram stories, you will already know this, but just a brief thing. So Kev explained what a golden shovel is. The context of it, it's a brand new poetic form. It was invented in 2017 by this guy named, not this guy, an American poet named Terrence Hayes, and he wrote, this dude, abroad just was like, golden shovel. What am I on about? So he took a Gwendolyn Brooks poem called We Real Cool, which is just this classic, iconic poem with very few words, and definitely look it up. It's brilliant and concise. And he wrote a poem where, as Kev said, every one of his lines ended with a word in her poem in sequential order. And her poem is set at a bar called the Golden Shovel. So he, I think his original one is called something like Good Times at the Golden Shovel. We can put the correct one in the caption. But then the form was invented that way. So I'd heard about it, and in 2017 there was a huge rash of everyone was writing golden shovels, and it was like this trend in the poetry world. But I never bothered to actually look up what it was. I just knew the term. And so when it got to I was looking around for different forms, and I was like, oh, might as well try this one. So yeah. And what I did is I took one of my favorite, probably my favorite poem, which is Mary Oliver's Wild Geese, which is just this stunningly beautiful prayer, essentially. It feels like a mantra. And it was really dumb because I took my favorite poem to test out writing for the first ever time in this form, which was a lot of pressure to put on myself, but I'm actually really, really proud of what I came up with.
Nice.
So I'll stop faffing and do the poem.
Nice, go for it.
Cool. The title comes from, it's another phrase later in the original Mary Oliver poem. Soft animal. Ever since that sweaty July night, you have not let yourself smile. You do not release your lead-heavy shoulders, do not leap puddles or jump sidewalk cracks. You have welded your body into an anchor tethered to something you never could have stopped. Be with me now. I love you. You are still good, yes, even though it hurts. I know you believe you owe her your grief. I know you do not think of joy as a choice anymore. Not an appropriate option, but a garish costume you have lost the right to wear. You cannot bear to bask in sunlight when she may not, so you walk on the shadowed side of the street, leaning on her memory like a crutch or a crucifix. Your paleness is a penance. You bleed your knees raw with prayer. But listen, please, for her sake, for yours, live. Surviving is not a punishment. You do not need to stutter 100 Hail Marys nightly or drive 50 miles each Sunday to lay lilies at her grave. Through this guilt, nothing grows. I need you to know the fertile, gracious world will not desert you if you stop repenting. So yeah, that's yeah. And to explain just how it works as a golden shovel, so if you read the end words, the first 3 lines of the poem are, you do not have to be good, you do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting.
Because then you've switched, you used desert for dessert.
Yeah, I cheated, but not cheated. Use some wordplay.
But that's we talked about that in I think what the first Loudcast for NaPoWriMo was talking about, like you can use these forms and they are great, but like if it didn't fit you or didn't suit you, just change it a little bit. Like it's a tool, it's not a rule, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, and desert and dessert are spelled the same way, so it was like might as well just adapt. You see some poets doing this in Sestinas, which is a similar form where you have to use the same word 6 times, but they'll use a word like one and then use it as one or I won the game, and playing with that. So I think it's nice to have that flexibility whenever you're using poetic forms.
Yeah. And if you guys are using poetic forms to kind of help you get through your NaPoWriMos, let us know what ones you're using. If you're going with the ones that we've done here, that's great. If you've got ones that we haven't mentioned yet, I'm sure we would love to hear them, because we got more poems to do, and there's only so many erasure pieces. There's only so much non-copyrighted book material that I can steal. So yeah, give us all of your form suggestions. Kate, absolutely tremendous work. That was beautiful, and
Thank you.
I stand by. Kate and I were on the afternoon show on BBC Radio this week 2. And I stand by what I said there, which is I should not be made to read poems before Katie. It's not fair. So we move right on to day 7, and we have G. And while Katie did her golden shovel on F day, I think the rest of us saw that and went, G, golden shovel day is here, baby. So I certainly did a golden shovel. Who else did?
I did a golden shovel as well on,
Yeah, you
on
did.
the
It
golden
sounds like you were
shovel
going to
day.
break into Willy Wonka there. I've got a golden shovel. Perry, did you do a golden shovel?
Nope. I tried briefly, and I wanted to do Rick Astley's.
Oh, you've ruined it.
Rick Astley's Never Gotta Give You Up, because it felt like the obvious choice there. But I found it too difficult, so I
Not
abandoned
many
that idea.
people watch this. Keep that to yourself. When you do it, right? But yeah, that's so you've got plans. Good,
Yeah.
good. Which one of you guys wants to give us a?
Bex, I want to do J. I don't know if you were also hoping to do J.
What did Mark give us?
I have H for March, Mark, which is day 8. So yeah, I can do mine. This is my golden shovel. Again, like
your golden
Katie, I chose a really smart thing, and I picked a line from my favorite author. I love Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I love Douglas Adams. I love the whole series. I picked a line, the only tattoo I have is of a whale falling to the ground. So I picked the line, in the beginning the universe was created. This has made a lot of people very angry and and been widely regarded as a bad move. So that was my inspiration. But actually, I thought I was going to write something really weird and funny, but it was a bit more political or whatever, which I haven't done before. So this is Galaxies. Taking giant leaps sideways in any direction, talking around the issues, questions, bringing back the beginning and downplaying the risks that only the brave will see through. The universe cries out to be heard, and I was not even full grown when I created my own galaxies. This hope, this life we must live, but the future has dimmed. We can see who has made a mess of things. Who is to blame for a world where chance picks their lot and they survive, thrive, take the fruits of labour and invest into the roots of people, civilizations, life, bursting to the very brim with a desire to live and ungrateful, angry for the beautiful universe life destroyed, and crying for help when all we've ever been is helping them. As their greed widely spreads and fools wish to be regarded heroes for sharing scraps from their table, as the players move pieces one by one, a pawn falls over, and another, tripped by a bad player, sacrificing any piece that tries to move.
Wow.
Lovely.
Stunning.
No cows at all.
Yeah, no, I honestly, when you said you were going Douglas Adams, I expected a very different poem from that, Dex.
Me too. Me too.
I think that's really cool though, and do you find that when you've got this kind of rule, the 30 days you're trying to do a poem every day, that it kind of forces you to maybe try not just forms that you would not necessarily rely on, but stylistic choices? You don't feel funny every day, Bex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. At the start of this week, it was just really hard to write, and that's why I was relying a lot on forms. But even in doing that, I found that I couldn't do I wasn't saying the normal stuff I do. And even in the last week podcast, I said I don't tend to write very serious poems. I tend to write more jolly, funny, whatever, silly things, and that tends to be what I enjoy doing. But if I'm writing every day, that's really hard. And if I wrote about cows every day for 30 days, I would go completely mental, and I don't need any extra acceleration in going mental at the moment.
No, you're doing quite well. I mean, you're living with a bear, Bex. So
The bear's been here since before the pandemic. It's fine. He's just been promoted. Very lately.
I really hope that Mark's okay. I really hope that she hasn't killed him. So that was Bex with her golden shovel. And we've got Mark up next, right?
Yeah.
How's he been doing, Bex? Has he been getting on all right with his poems?
Yeah, he has been. Because normally what will happen is we'll chat by the water cooler every day at work, the sink. I've been quite good because I work regular hours, but I'm at a computer. I've normally been done before I finish my working day. Like I'll do it in my lunch break or something. So normally it's like 7:30 and I'm like, cool, I've done my poem, it's posted, it's up, it's everything, blah. And he's like, yeah, cool, I'm gonna go do my poem. And I'm like, all right. But he has done it every day. They've been really good. So well done, Mark. 10 out of 10.
I did notice that he was he was one of the late night crew. There was like there was a clear divide sort of week one of who was an early poet and who was a late night poet. Perry getting his smashed right out the way.
Yep. I don't want to deal with him like late, so.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got a submission from Mark, right, Bex?
Yeah. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, go for it.
So obviously
actually
imagine
have the
it in a
bear
male
read it?
Scottish voice.
Yeah, Kate's requesting for the bear to read it. Actually,
Yep.
Bex, have you, Kate?
Oh, okay, right. Can you hear him? No? Oh,
Yep,
sorry.
yep,
I didn't
that's
mic the bear
perfect.
up. I'll just have to do it for him.
Bush league. Yeah.
I'm hungry, like really hungry. Haven't had breakfast hungry, meal missed in prepped for all the you can eat buffet hungry. Just saw footage of fondue hungry. Not starving to death hungry, but bored of my basic meals hungry. Already had too much takeaway today. I'm gonna cook something. I really like cooking. Didn't think I would as a kid. Seemed a bit girly. Something's mum did mostly, but dad still got to cook the big roast that everyone remembered. I remember thinking it looked easy. How hard is it to add heat to something for some time? How hard can it be to follow a recipe?
Nice. Very
Lovely.
good. Very good. So you've not been feeding him then? That's
He is an adult. He can feed himself.
this canny though, Bex. Canny.
It's that interesting evolution from, oh, I thought cooking was girly, something mum did, to then realizing, oh, this is hard and something I need to do for myself.
It's nice. I think Mark often does a thing that, like, I really like Mark's poetry because I think it's very much in the vein of what I enjoy in terms of that. Like I was saying earlier, that's a very refined message. He thinks he does the opposite, but I disagree. Like I think that's a great example of when he can really spin out one idea in a multitude of interesting ways without going too far. Repetition is a very tight line to walk between hammering something home and reinforcing an established idea and blasting someone over the face with "you're hungry." You know what I mean? So yeah, good job, Mark.
I just want to point out if Mark is watching, I just want you to know, Mark, that I clearly realised that you wrote that because you saw my Swamped poem, and I'd like that. So, thank you. Imitation is the highest form of flattery, so thank you, Mark.
There is real beef developing between Barry and Mark. I'm really concerned for when we get out of these houses and they have to interact with each other again. It's slightly worrying. But yeah, thank you, Mark, for your poem. I know you'll be watching this when it goes out to see if you're necessary. But we move on now. He's not. He's the Charlie. He's not necessary. He's helpful.
Yeah,
You know
useful.
what I mean?
Useful. Yeah.
But we move on to Day J. Really abandoned numbers,
Oh
guys.
my God.
Crikey.
Was that 8? Day 8?
I don't know. Sure, whatever. See, unlike Kate, I go by the letter. So
Yeah, I go by the letter.
yeah.
It's Day J, but you got a J poem for us, Perry?
I do have a J poem for you. Again, my week wasn't fantastic in terms of writing. I don't think this is.
I don't mean to be that guy, but what happened to I?
This is the thing.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Well, we don't have everyone.
Yeah, no,
so-
it's I. We can do an I poem. Who's got an I poem?
Oh, we're reading multiple poems.
I just forgot the letter I. Oh well, I suppose we could skip days. Yeah, let's not do too many. I suppose we don't want to go through every day, do we? That's going to become.
Yep.
Yeah. So, did anyone do any thoughts on day I? How was everyone doing?
What number is I?
Day 9 or
Day
I.
9.
You can tell that I'm posting the prompts every day.
Oh,
Bex
I
is the only one with
did.
a concept of time at this point.
I did a spine poem
You
for
did a
I.
spine
That
poem.
was
Spine
my I.
poems. Nice. What I'm going to do is just Katie's spine poem will just come up on the screen briefly
Ooh.
for that.
Yep.
I looked at Perry there to be like, you can help me do that, right? Cool. So that's Katie's spine poem. Thank you very much for that, Katie. And
Yep.
we move on to day 10, with
Which is
J,
J.
and I think Perry's good to go for a J, right?
Good to go for a J. Like I said, not super pleased. I don't think this is phenomenal, but I'm going to read it anyway because I think it's got a nice rhythm to it or something like that. This is J for just right. We loop ourselves around the familiar, the well-practiced rhythms of cautious routine. Make nests of our certainties, with long-term parking for lofty ideals. We sand down our curiosities, expectations so tempered they gleam in the sun, and hermetically sealed playpens with rustic decor and heirloom ideals. We feng shui the water feature. Difficult word to say that. We feng shui some water features. A lily pond in the garden out back, and a gentle babbling brook to watch the years float by as we water the plants.
Wow, that's really nice. I always really enjoyed, like, I think it can be a bit cliche and hack sometimes, the juxtaposition of, you know, sort of nature and like the rust imagery and things like that. But I think you walk that line really nicely. I see it a lot in your stuff. I don't know what I mean by this, but your stuff has like a sepia tone to it. There's this kind of constant, it's like that, you're so Scandinavian. I can't quite explain what I mean by that, but I know what I mean. Like there's that kind of Beauty and the Barren type thing, you know what I mean? Where there's simplicity of the things you're saying and a kind of melancholy to them, but wrapped in almost this but it could be worse kind of rapper. It's a
No, that makes
I'm not very
perfect sense to
articulate
me.
in my critique, but
Yeah.
it's interesting seeing a style develop in someone that hasn't really been a poet, you know.
I feel that The National is my favorite band, so and they have a very similar vibe in terms of like the melancholy that seeps through everything.
Yeah, because I would go as well like Editors or similar that kind of like It's an interesting vibe about your stuff, even when there's humor in it.
Yeah,
there's a kind of almost cynical undercut.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, there's always that stream of cynicism, and which doesn't feel cruel or doesn't feel, you know, but there's always a tang. You're also very, very good at textures.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean that in metaphorical ways, but also you write feel in a way that I think a lot of poets forget to do.
Interesting.
And I don't know whether that's because I don't know. Well, you're not a sculptor, but
I am a visual person,
but
so
that's the thing. You're more visual, and all of your poems are very sensory in a way that I always really appreciate.
Just when Kate says that about writing feel, one of the best tips that Kate kind of constantly reinforces whenever we're doing workshops and sort of writing exercises is while you're doing a bit of timed writing, she will tell you to think about the five senses. What does it look like? How does it smell? How does it feel? What does it taste like? What do you hear? Like, and even if it's not literal, you know what I mean? What you pick something random, like you're talking about a storm. What is the taste of a storm? But you can extrapolate out of that. Like, so it's not a dry, dusty air, is it? There's a wetness to it? Maybe is there lightning? Is there a metallic cut? Is there, you know? And that's when you start getting into finding more interesting language and interesting ways to describe stuff. So yeah, always remember your five senses. And so that was Jade.
You're like such a proud mama hen.
I can see
My
her saying
young
nodding.
Padawans have learned.
He enjoys my workshops. So yeah, good stuff. And so we're up to K. Has anyone got a K poem they really want to bust out? I think we're not that. I haven't done K.
I'll do a thing because I'm at it. K is for kiosk. I followed your advice, Bex, today, and I did an ekphrastic. And I did this around the music video for Max Richter, who's a composer. His song On the Nature of Daylight, which has been in a lot of films. It's one of those like scores that you'll recognize just from hearing it, and you probably go, I know that, but I don't know from where.
And we can link to...
Yeah, we will link to it because it's amazing. So I did this around the music video for that, not just the song. So I got both the visual and the music video is amazing. It stars Elizabeth Moss and she... the narrative is she starts in a diner. She just hangs up the phone and most likely she'll have gotten some bad news, some devastatingly bad news. And she just walks up and walks out and the whole thing is her walking. for like 3-4 minutes, and as she does, just walking these streets, and it goes from night slowly to like morning to day, you can tell that she's just struggling through something, and she's just like processing this news, and eventually she just kind of crumbles towards the end, and it's just a beautiful video. So yeah, I did this around that. Again, not phenomenal, but it's something. And if you extra points, if you're listening to this, stick on the song On the Nature of Daylight in the background. And yeah. Roadside Diner Lady, are you okay? Can I get you some coffee? I know it's late, but you look like you could use some warmth right now. Roadside Diner Lady, can I offer you a map? There's plenty of places for you to go. I'm just picking up on the fact that here is not where you want to be. Roadside Diner Lady, do you need some help? I'm not much of a talker, but I'm happy to fill this silence for you. Roadside Diner Lady, it's not okay. This load looks heavy to carry, and I don't want to be a burden. Roadside Diner Lady, I know it isn't right. Just take a moment, here in the space in between. With this time, there'll never be another. This time will eventually be another point on your map. Roadside Diner Lady, there's only one way out of here, and it's to keep on going. Just promise me you'll let me know if you need some rest.
Oh,
nice. That's really good, Perry. I'm really excited to watch that back with the accompanying video.
Such a nice video, man. Just like, yeah, shout out to Max Richter.
And obviously there's a unique perspective from you of how what pieces of film are going to join up nicely with you know, the poetic rhythms and stuff that you're accustomed to. It's an interesting viewpoint. I'd love to see you do more ekphrastic work.
Yeah. I probably will. To be perfectly honest, everything I do creatively has references. So like I always have a starting off point of something I know, where I was like, okay, this is where I'm starting, but I want to do this with it. So almost everything I do write will be some form of ekphrastic, even though it'll be more or less tied to. This is very tied to the thing. I'm describing the visuals essentially, and inserting myself into that narrative. Otherwise, I might just put on a song and I'll write to that one song just to get the rhythm of it.
Nice.
I think as well, one of the things that struck me about that, I think especially younger poets, or not younger, people who are newer to poetry, think, oh, to write a poem, I have to use really flowery language. I have to use all of the $50 words, as we were taught them, you know, complicated words. And I love poetry that actually takes a different voice that uses the vernacular, that's just Roadside Diner Lady, are you okay? Like, that is poetry too. But
again, it's about how you intertwine that with your more descriptive language. That's when you get into the difference, I guess, between a piece of dialogue and what still retains the tag poetry, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, it's not just... you still get beautiful images there, and it's still evocative of so much and has this really powerful message to me, but without using 15 syllable words, which is I think something to remind ourselves of. It's accessible language doesn't mean simplistic poetry.
Absolutely. I especially I think from a spoken word point of view, like as someone who deliberately keeps their stuff away from that kind of language, I purposefully make my stuff as accessible and understandable as possible. Like, it's not because you can't use that language. It depends what you're trying to do with your poem.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, tremendous work, guys. So that's our week 2. A little glimpse into that. If you'd like to see more poems, what we do right after this, we stick about for another sort of 10-15 minutes and we record a bunch of the other poems that we've done this week, and that goes up on our Patreon to our $3 and above patrons who we love dearly, who help keep us alive in these scary times. For everyone that's signed up recently, thank you so much. We do appreciate it endlessly. And if you want to get a bit more Loudcast in your life, you can get some Loudcast extra over on the Patreon channel, and that'll be going up as this video goes live, so you can go there right after this. But for now, I just wanted to mention briefly as well that we put stuff out on our YouTube every week, and this week we put up a beautiful poem by Hannah Lavery, Rage, which was much less intense than it sounds in terms of performance. She's not screaming. If I think Rage, my poem would be Hannah is much more nuanced than I am. She performed it last year with us at our Loud Poets Monthly show, and was accompanied by Jack Hinks on guitar, which was sublime. They worked together really well. But it's obviously because it was interesting. Basically, I've been watching a lot of poetry, trying to keep myself inspired, and I watched Hannah, and I was absolutely obsessed with this poem, enraptured by it. I've watched it way too many times, and I edited it, so like I'm still obsessed with it. And but I have no idea. Like I can't place, not no idea, but I can't place my finger on exactly what it is about. And I wanted to talk to you about that, Kate, because you were just saying that we talked a lot this episode about how you can be a bit loose with rules and you don't need to like tie in everything completely accurately. But like, yeah, how would you break down that poem? Yeah, if you've not watched it yet, go and check it out on YouTube.
Yeah,
because you'll see what I mean.
Go watch Hannah Lavery. It's really interesting because we have this sort of conversation a lot where you bring a poem to me and you're like, Katie, what does it mean? And I'm like,
because I'm an idiot.
No. And usually my answer is very therapist style. Well, what do you think it means? And so we talk about this a lot. I, have a lot of training and education in poetry, which is helpful to a certain point, but I am not the arbiter of what it means.
Well, I'll say then, because I thought it was about her process of going through being a child into an angry person and then being softened again by her own children.
Which is totally interesting because I got something totally different, but I absolutely see your interpretation. No. So basically, if you've watched the poem, she anthropomorphizes rage. She makes it into a tangible person figure with rage has their own personality and all of that. And there's some beautiful images, just like pissing on the doorstep and then kissing the back of the speaker's neck, and it's stunning. And so it really narrates this relationship with rage, which is contentious, and the speaker tries to leave rage behind when moving, but rage comes with them. It's interesting. I just finished doing a lot of feedback work for another poet, and I went through a lot of his work, and I was sort of giving different guidance on writing. And a term that I came up with that I think really applies here, it sounds massively wanky, but I don't know how else to say it, is generative ambiguity, by which I mean the poet, I know, the poet leaves things deliberately ambiguous so that the reader fills in the gaps with their imagination. They then have to generate the rest of the poem. And other critics have said this in other ways. It's, not like I've invented this concept. But I think Hannah does that beautifully. We don't know the whole story of her relationship with rage. I shouldn't say Hannah, the speaker of this poem. I don't want to assume autobiography. But yeah, I love filling in the gaps of poems, and my own understanding that that's not going to be the definitive reading of a poem, because nothing ever is.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point as to like you should always be able to take your own thing over it. It was just, I don't know why I got so... There's a lot of poems that, and not everyone understands. I've had lots of people come up to me and say, a poem they think is about one thing, and I'm like, no. But I don't know why I got so interested in this one, because I've watched it so many times, and I'm still like, I hear different bits, and I go, oh, well, that could mean this then, and then I disagree with it because of something else she said. I think it's the first time in quite a while that I've really, I guess, not been able to pick apart something that I would still consider a spoken word poem, and I just I've become a little obsessed with it. I would suggest you all go and watch the video, but I think what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to finish, because we're doing L to R, I'm going to finish and do Rage, and I'm going to see if I can do maybe play with either Hannah's poem or do a take off it. And if you guys are looking for some poetic inspiration, I often find that the best way to do it. I like to go on a big YouTube binge, and then I feel inspired to write. We've got a playlist up there, Loud Poets, with a bunch of amazing artists. This week, coming out, we have more awesome poems. So on Thursday, we are going to have Jack McMillan's Ladders coming out. Again, musical accompaniment by Jack Hinks.
So good. So good.
Editing this poem together was an absolute joy. It's come out perfect. I'm so pleased. Jack nailed it. Both Jacks nailed it. That's coming out on Thursday, but you can get early access to that now on the Patreon, $1 a month and up, get early access. And there will be a new video going up there on Thursday that'll be out the week after. I'm not sure who I'm going to put up yet. I need to take a look and do some editing this week. But yeah, please do check out the YouTube channel. If you're here just now, if that's where you're watching this, which it should be, please hit the like button, hit subscribe. It helps us endlessly to share these videos and get YouTube pushing them out a little bit more. Guys, sum up your approach to next week in a single sentence for me. Bex, I'm going to come to you first with your single sentence, your approach, your focus, your aim for next week. Hit me with it.
Next week, I want to write kids' poems.
Nice.
Ooh.
I'm on board. I like that. So kids' poems from Bex. Katie,
Yep.
what's your sentence?
Remember that you're not just doing this to win, you're doing this to stay creative and make stuff that makes you feel good.
No one will ever understand how competitive a person Katie Ailes truly is.
What?
Perry,
How do you win? How do you win
can't,
at
Bex.
NaPoWriMo?
You can't. There's so many things Kate can't win that she thinks she can. I'm just saying.
And I'm going to go the complete opposite way, and I'm going to go be better.
Be better. Wow, Perry, intense. Don't lose any more hair.
Oh, Jesus.
I am gonna. My sentence is: I know your teeth hurt, but you can't simply steal Phil K's tombstone poem. So it's all I could think of every time I tried to write was my teeth are tombstones, and Phil K did that. Fuck you, Phil K.
Thank you, Phil K.
But yeah, we hope you guys continue to smash your NaPoWriMo. Remember to share your stuff with us. Hashtag I am loud. Hashtag NaPoWriMo. Anything else we need to plug? Shout out Redbubble. We sell merch. You can get your Loud Poets t-shirts, your I am loud t-shirts at the Redbubble. All the links are below. Go and check out our stuff. Continue to support us. We really appreciate it. Stay indoors. Just stay inside. Everyone say bye.
Oh, wait, Kev.
Bye. Oh.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Bye! Enough!
Oh, I hate you so much. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Loudcast. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, maybe give us a subscribe, and if you could hit the bell icon so you don't miss any updates, we would appreciate it so much. If you want to get more Loudcasts in your life, you can jump over to our Patreon channel right now, where there's a Loudcast exclusive from this episode up live right now. So go check it out, donate, we'd really appreciate it.